shoe, I am not he. Coretta Scott King said, struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation. The words of Frederick Douglass says, it is better to build strong children than to repair broken men. Amen. I'll come back to that. So again, as stated, my name is Dwayne Brown. I am program manager of Maximus. Maximus is one of the leading organizations for government operations, providing program management, technology solutions, as well as consulting. And so, as we talk about, we have over 40,000 employees throughout all 50 states, including the United Kingdom, Singapore, Italy, and Canada. But really, I want to talk about first how we ended up in this space, because I think that's very important. About 2 years ago, our Vice President, Ms. Lisa Simmons, Vice President of Global and Domestic Relations, gathered a number of her leaders, a couple of which are here today, and she said it is important that we begin to build relationships with the local NAACP organizations. She understood that much of the work that this organization over hundreds of years has been advocating for are many of the operational things that we do every day, as was stated. Child care initiatives. In fact, we have an office right here led by Ms. Lindsay, who's in the back, who runs our child care program for the Department of Care, Early Care and Learning. Child support initiative, workforce development. Elder said that at a time like this, when people are real unsure about employment, we are having a job fair here tomorrow as a part of the NAACP conference. We are bringing in a number of employees, Truist Bank, Amazon, Randstad, there are a number. In fact, we're still on the phone with a few. We're trying to get the city of Atlanta here because we understand how important it is to have these partnerships. But one of the things she did when she brought us together, small leaderships, she really only gave us three things. She gave us her initiative, she gave us a fan because she said it may get hot, she gave us a pair of boots and said, now go put them on the ground. And that's how we ended up here. So one of the first things that we did is we had a meeting here in Atlanta with President Griggs, First Vice President Kip Carr, and Executive Director Tonza Thomas. And from that meeting that was supposed to be a 15-minute introduction, it ended up being a 2-hour meeting because we understood the relationship that we have, that many of the families, children, fathers that you serve are the same family, children, fathers, and communities that we actually serve as well in terms of the benefit programs that we administer. From that meeting, we then began to build a relationship with the president of the Charlotte, North Carolina, President Mack. We were part of that conference. And from there, we've just built a relationship with President Sweetlove in Tennessee. And so we've taken that charge to begin to have these local relationships very, very important. One of the things that I remember most that occurred in July, First Vice President Kip Carr actually came to or met with Maximus staff, over 400 Maximus staff, to speak about all of the great things that the NAACP is doing. It was a very enlightening and empowering meeting. Over 400 staff. It was really standing room only, but I would say standing room, but we were on Zoom, so it was more like sitting room only, and everybody was engaged and empowered. And many gave us emails and feedback coming saying that after that meeting, they themselves went out to their communities and their local NAACPs and joined. So we understood the relationship that we have in serving those families. And in our conversation, in my conversation with President Carr, First Vice President Carr, I asked, I said, how did we get to the statement, the fierce urgency of now? And he reminded me, as just was stated, those were not new words. Those were the words of Dr. Martin Luther King in 1963 in his I Have a Dream speech. Those were the words of Dr. Martin Luther King again in 1965. And then once again in 1967 when he spoke about the Vietnam War. So he knew that this moment would come when we would have to have that fierce urgency of now, that call to action. And he have to be ready for that. But also, if you think about the words again of Coretta Scott King, and I'll repeat them, struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation. And it's that last part, that every generation, that I wanted to focus on. Because we are the leaders that are preparing that next generation to fight the good fight, to be fired up and ready to go. And oftentimes, if you listen to the crowd noise, they'll tell you that our next generation isn't ready. They may make you think that that next generation isn't prepared, but I reject that because the crowd noise has never been right about us. The crowd noise has definitely never been right about our youth. Right? It is the same crowd noise that asked Dr. King to just wait just a little bit longer. It's the same crowd noise that asked Rosa Parks, can you just move back a couple of seats? It's the same crowd noise that said to Fannie Lou Hamer, or made Fannie Lou Hamer say, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so the crowd noise has never guided us, particularly when it comes to preparing our youth for that next generation. And so that then brings me back to Frederick Douglass and his quote. As a coach and mentor for over 20 years, it says, I've been in Tallahassee, Florida, South Carolina, Baltimore, Maryland, and now here in Douglasville, Georgia. And I've had the opportunity to have a front row seat in the unfolding lives of our young men and our young women. And if you just glance at them and walk by, you might see doubt, you might see anger, you might see confusion, you might see a number of things that don't tell the true story. But if you lean in, if you pause and look them right in their eyes, you'll see something very, very different. You'll see passion, you'll see pride, you'll see potential, you'll see a willingness and a readiness to grow and a readiness to lead. And we are the leaders that are preparing that next generation. And so I say, we talk a lot about role models, and role models are extremely important. But what I want to say is I think we need something a little bit different. I think what we need is something I call real models. Capital R, capital E, capital A, capital L. Real models. R, to create resources to open up the doors of opportunity. Real models. E, encouraging them to go forward and move forward through the challenges that they may face. Real models. A, adult accountability to teach character and integrity. Real models. L, love. Because sometimes we're so busy pushing and training and controlling them, we forget to love them. Every day at practice, there's some young man who might miss a tackle or miss a block, and I'll call him over and I say, you know you missed that tackle. Don't miss it again. Oh, and by the way, I love you. And he goes down and says, okay, coach. Because we have to provide that as well. But here's the beauty of it. The Georgia NAACP is built for this very moment. In the 83rd year of this conference, it's built for this very moment of real leadership. Think about it, just a few names. Dr. Ralph Gilbert, first president. C.L. Harper. Dr. Edward DuBose, who you just heard, one of the first female presidents of the NAACP. Phyllis Blake, and then of course our very own Attorney Gerald Briggs, a person who has known and has always fought the good fight. In fact, if the day of the week ends in the letter Y, he's probably out there fighting that good fight every day. And so we have the blueprint for our next generation to be the leaders of the next stage of that period of time that Coretta Scott was speaking of. And so when I think about the phrase, the term, or the mantra, the fierce urgency of now, I think about what does that mean for the next generation. Well, I think if we meet the fierce urgency of now, then they'll have an opportunity to have the enduring promise of tomorrow. And that's what we fight for. And so I say, as I close, it is important that we focus on that word now, the N, the O, the W, what I call new opportunities to win. New opportunities to win. And for us to do that, that call of action is to do a number of things. One, let's make sure that we are creating the opportunities for these young men and young women to be able to have and see what real leadership looks like. Let's make sure that we are building new and strong relationships new partnerships that will help move us forward. Unite, as was said earlier. Making sure that we're out there every day, as John Lewis said, not just fighting the good fight, but where necessary, getting into good trouble. And as a newspaper article that I read from President Griggs that says, let's make sure that we unite and we persevere. And we know that Galatians 6:9 says, be not weary in your well-doing. The season to reap will come if we faint not. And that is the stage that we're in. So we must do a couple of things, right? We trade doubt for determination. We trade criticism for collaboration. We trade timidity for tenacity. We trade the words, the fierce urgency of now to the enduring promise of tomorrow. And so I'd like to say this, as I close every practice with my team, and we circle, and we say the prayer right after practice. I ask them to get in the circle, and we put our hands in. And I'll ask you to do, like Elder DuBois said, use your 20-year-old voice. And we say, never give up, never give up, never give out, never give out, and never give in. Never give in. And there's always a kid that have to repeat it for, so I say, never give up, never give up, never give out, never give out, and never give in. Never give in. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come before you. I want to thank you for this opportunity for Maximus, but personally, I want to thank you for the opportunity for me to be a part of the 83rd convention. And I say, let's have a great convention and let's move forward. Thank you very much.